Hey, welcome everyone to our OneClick App developer webinar. We're going to be reviewing a few of the ways that OneClick App can help with your operations and to help increase three things that we're going to be talking about. How to get your team to love setups, really streamline that, make it work better. Breaks can be managed by the computers. We're trying to bring everyone into the digital age and remove the amount of paperwork that is in paper and manual whiteboards and things that are happening. And also how to track training and create a program that's going to work much better. So what we have today, James will be the featured presenter. And he is also the author of the software. He developed the software while working at Chick-fil-A. He started there when he was 16 and had some computer experience and started to kind of develop it while he was on the floor, working with his leadership team and implementing what they wanted. And it's been growing. And so we're very excited about where we're at and how many Chick-fil-A's are able to benefit from the efficiencies that are available here, and would love to just turn the time over to James to do a presentation on how can our operators and Chick-fil-A stores improve their workflow.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. While I start my screen, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. It's this tab right here. I was reflecting earlier. It's been a really fun experience. And oh, is this the right screen? I don't think I shared the right screen. Maybe I didn't.
Your screen is not shared at the moment. And also, if anyone has questions along the way, don't hesitate to send them via the chat or raise your hand. And we're going to have a bit of a presentation here, and then we'll do a Q&A, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you've got.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen. It was fun preparing for this webinar because I was able to look back in the journey and be like, where did we come from? And so I dug through the logs. This is what my store did in 2016. This is how they tracked their setups. They had this Google spreadsheet, and this is just a screenshot of it. But they had all these different cells, and they would type in the names. So it'd reference hot schedules, and they'd type in the names of everybody who's working, and they would type in the times over on the right. And then they had these little check boxes for the breaks. And then they would type in the names in this kind of grid view in this Google spreadsheet. Now, this is already an upgraded version. When I first started, I built it and I took it from where it was to this version here, where I've got some conditional formatting going on, and notice how the breaks are automatically indicating which ones are actually needed and which ones aren't. Their original versions, it didn't do any of that stuff. And so I don't think I need to rehearse very well what you do, like what are the options. But this is what my store did. And this became a foundation, or this is where we started to build OneClick App. And so now I'm going to share a couple things. First, we're going to talk about how to love setups. Imagine the jump when you can jump from manually like sorting through lists of hot schedules data and typing it in spreadsheets and like thinking it out and doing this for a week at a time. And then by the time Saturday comes around, then a lot of the shifts have changed and they're no longer up to date. And anyway, imagine all that to go now to OneClick right here, where the software with the computer does that all for you. It's now, let's see, 2016 it's now 6 years later. And we've got OneClick App integrates with hot schedules and pulls in all the shifts on the right. And it's really easy to do the setup. So what we get to do is we get to drag them. Now this is a review because this dragging functionality is really basic and core to what we do at OneClick, where we drag shifts around. And it's super freaking easy. We love it. We put Carla on IPOS and we put Celeste on Mobile Runner. And we make these decisions. And as a shift leader, you think it through and you say, actually, no, Cameron wouldn't be very good on register. We'll put her outside. And you say, Ethan, we're actually going to put him on the inside. And you move things around. You're like, oh, looks like we need a window person. And we still need our chicken and we need our waffles. And we do all the things. One thing that we've built recently, and you can't do this on paper at all. Check this out. OneClick App gives you the ability to resort and look at the shifts in other ways. So we have this advanced auto sort, which is pretty intelligent, and it's been designed to give you what you want. And I can go through or actually, if you want, you can look through the specifics on how that works in this learn screen. It'll tell you all about how it works and why it's designed the way it is. But let me just point out that there are other ways. So we have this auto sort, which gives you basically your best people right on top. So you're like, okay, when I'm creating my setup, who are my managers? Who are my shift leaders? For people who use our advanced breaks module, we also have an advanced break manager, which is going to do some really intelligent break sorting. It's going to look at when you have multiple breaks going on, who should go next, and give a visual overview of all the breaks. Sometimes when people need 2 or 3 or 0, all that kind of stuff, we've got a visual overview of all the breaks. Notice here as on the right in the roster, as I click on this heading, we've got another view just for training. So just who's good at training, who's not, and we're gonna see our best people on top. We also have a special view for just the name. So if we're looking for a particular name, we can find that one. We can look at when people start their shifts or when people end their shifts. This is all really powerful sort available to your shift leaders. And I mean, essentially it's going to give them what they need. But imagine you're like, okay, I've got this paper and I've written all my things, and now I want to resort them and see when are people off. Well, you can do that in OneClick, and you can look at sorted by the stop time. You're like, all right, these are my people that are off at 9. Addison, Alexis, Aaliyah, Brianna, Bridger, Lolan, Nolani, and Alexis off at 9:30. That's so cool. You can't do that without paper. Like, that is super cool. Very helpful to modernize your store. And then when it comes around to, hey, now like, who should I send on break next? Well, if you want to do something really simple, look at the start time and like, hey, Erica, we'll back over here. Who do I send on break first? Well, let's send Cameron, because Cameron started at 6. So we should probably send her on break first. So we'll send Cameron on break. And who should we send next? Oh, we'll send Chet on break because he started at 8. All right, that sounds pretty good. We're going to skip Erica because she's on the stocking right now and we need her. So we'll do Carla next. Now I've got time for Erica. So it's really super simple to like do breaks and skip people and go in different orders if you want to. Super awesome way to modernize operations with OneClick app. Number 2, breaks. Now I demonstrated this a little bit already, but OneClick app, and I'll just be a little bit more precise. OneClick app is intelligently looking at, it's taking all the shifts that somebody's scheduled for in the day, and then it's figuring out which breaks they need. Now, a lot of stores have really simple rules. If you work 5 hours, you get a 30-minute break. All right, super simple. OneClick does that. It will even run them together. So if they have a 2-hour training shift and a 3-hour not in training, it'll merge those together, 5 hours, 30-minute break. A slightly more complicated version of that is if you say, all right, well, if they work 5 hours, they get a 30-minute break. Or if they work 5 hours, they get a 20-minute break. And if they work 6 hours, then they get a longer break, right? 30 instead of 20, they get a slightly longer break. We can do that too. So if it's 5 hours, OneClick will give them a 20-minute break. If it's 6 hours, we'll give them a 30-minute break. And all that looks like to your shift leaders is a red icon. And when they click it, not this one, when they click it, it starts a timer and it shows them what the options are and they can run it. This was an advanced option. That's for customers who use the advanced breaks module where it starts getting more complicated. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And so it's really simple for your shift leader to just click the button and start running it. And the computer is doing all the math and all the intensive to like shifts, laws, and we'll get it all set up. For really complicated cases, this becomes even more powerful. In California, there are crazy break laws. Same in Oregon. New York is not much better, where depending on the age of the person, if they're a minor or if they're not, and how long the shift is, they need like a 10 and a 30-minute break, or they need a 10 and a 30 and another 10-minute break, but if they're a minor, then the rules are different and it changes. OneClick calculates all of that, takes all that in, we'll set that up, we'll generate these tables, we'll work with you. And then the computer gets to calculate all that, and you get to say, shift leaders, if it's red, send them on a break. If it's blue, they've already finished their breaks. And when they're green, you know that they're not working because they're on break right now. Is how that works. And it's really super powerful. And you can imagine how that would totally revolutionize to go from, if I look back up these screenshots, to go from, let's see, 5, 9, 4. All right. you can imagine how that goes, and have it integrated is really powerful. Last section, I want to keep my presentation short today, is organizing the training and helping training be really organized. Now, this is cool. I was just really working with Drew Turner. He's in Georgia, Robson Crossing. We just built an expansion on our training set that extends our previous functionality. It's currently in beta, but imagine imagine the jump where some stores don't even have training programs. There are Chick-fil-A stores out there that want to do training, that recognize it's a priority, but they don't have the energy, or oftentimes they don't have a training manager. They don't have the energy to make it a priority. And it's actually interesting because it's like, hey, I know that I need to have a training program. I want to hire 20 more employees right now, but how do I keep track of that, and who's in charge? And then once I hire them, then who's going to make them get from, like cleaning floors and sweeping floors and wiping tables to being really good at register and serving the guests like a boss on window, and filling drinks really fast and marking the right buttons on the headset job or drinks or whatever you call it. How do they get to that place? Well, that's what training's for. And the training management in OneClick is designed, and it's really cool because we're able to provide a lot of the we've already learned a lot of things with a lot of from other customers. And so at this point, what you're seeing is this evolution and this understanding that's come over time. And so we're able to help you track, hey, Ashley, she's learned all these things and now she's working on cash card. Emily is learning these things. She's still working on drinks, but she's good at cash card. And OneClick displays that information. My favorite part, and I talked about this last month, we had a whole webinar just on training. You should definitely go check that out if you want a more in-depth, how can we use training? What does that look like? But my favorite part of the training program is that here on the roster, this highest training sort, it also does this in the auto sort, is it automatically gives us our better people. So our baggers are going to appear on top, our dessert people are going to appear on top, our front counter people appear on top, and they're sorted based on how many training positions they know. And I just think that's so cool, because when I'm a shift leader and I show up, okay, do I have baggers? Do I have headset people? You can like see it right there in front of you. Anyway, that's my presentation. Wanted to keep it really short. And now I hope that we have some questions. And I want to hear how other stores, any of our existing customers, how has OneClick, what has OneClick done to like help you modernize? What have you seen? How has it changed your operations? And from any potential customers, anybody who's interested in using OneClick, what are you hoping OneClick can do? Or what questions can we ask? How can we help? And the time's all yours. I'll turn the time back over to Dad to run the Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, James. So at this point, if anybody has a question or they've looked at it, I don't exactly know what the status of each of the people on the webinar is, but we'd love to have you type your question, raise your hand, we can open the microphone, we can have a back and forth dialogue, and answer any questions that you might have about how this can best work in your operation. Oh,
we've got a question. She's raising her hand. Can you speak
Hey,
down?
I'm going to allow Tarian to talk here. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Oh, yes. How are you doing today?
Hello. Good to hear you. Which state are you in?
Oh, yeah, I'm from Michigan. Michigan, the 12 Oaks Novi location.
Cool.
So by Detroit. Yeah, so I'm the training director here. And basically, I'm starting from scratch with a new comprehensive training plan. And I'm trying to implement OneClick fully. So are there tutorials and things like that for us to access? So we can, because basically what we're going to do is as they complete the training, we want to get them into OneClick. And then we're going to kind of use, like for example, the score number one, as like they've done one shift so far in that position. And then the higher rankings we're going to use as if they got certified and if they are an expert or a subject matter expert. But we're trying to figure out is like, how do we assign trainees to people, things like that. So it's organized for them, for the shift leads when they come in, they already know who's working with who and things like that.
Yeah, that is a great question. I have some thoughts. I see Drew Turner found some time to squeeze into the webinar today. Thanks for joining. I'd love to hear if some other operators have some thoughts, some other customers. If you want to share I'd love to hear from our other customers, and otherwise I'll just share because I get to talk to them and I can do that, but I'd love to hear from someone else. Yeah, Drew, go ahead. You're muted right now though.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just jumped on. But you know, we're definitely in the same ballpark to implement a new training plan. And for us, I think the keys to OneClick are the rating system. We've created a rubric. I think, James, there's a document on your main, or an email that we got when we first signed up that showed kind of the breakthrough of like how things are ranked from 0 to 5 stars.
Jim, could you bring up that link I just sent through the chat and show it on the
Yeah.
screen?
So here we go.
Yeah. So for us, a big thing is it allows us to get very coordinated on when a team member is like meeting expectations. So we kind of aligned our rankings with the rankings on OneClick. So it gives a new team member, a little bit of a safety net for them to say, hey, you still may be red in a position, which is like below expectation. And we allow them to exist in that, but we want to grow them to the blue circle, which is basically kind of just meets the basic level that we would deem, appropriate for the restaurant. So if you're looking at the training rubric that you're bringing up, like the red circles for us denote that a team member that's training in those areas is not able to perform that job on their own, that they're still need to be paired with a trainer. And then the different colors kind of denote where they're at in their journey. So we like it for that. That's where we're starting. That seems to be really, it moves it from subjectivity to more of objectivity, and allows our team members to see where they're at and see where they want to go.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in, Drew. I want to jump in. James, could you go back to that knowledge article? And there's a link where you can open the Google spreadsheet. And I'm just going to talk through briefly how we can help you customize the training rubrics. So we've shared that sheet. When you click on that, it should open up. And there's an instruction tab. But essentially, there's 3 tabs here. The instruction kind of leads you through it. You can see in these diagrams that inside OneClick app, you're going to end up with a list of training criteria. Scroll up just a little bit, James. So the training positions are shown in those circles, and you can define those training positions exactly the way you use people in your store. And then they're going to show up in the training dashboard. On the right-hand side, you can see how you'll be able to see those. The training positions will also be showing up for each team member. It'll show what their ratings are. And for each position, there's a list of criteria that you can have 1 to 5 stars. And in order to help with better consistency between the leadership team, you define what a 3-star performance looks like and what a 4-star performance looks like. And that is, we call that a rubric. So James, if you can flip over to the positions tab on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I do want to be careful I don't want to go super in depth into this topic, but let's go a little bit farther. And it's possible to set it up the way you need it. And if you want specific help, we would love to have a one-on-one video chat and get it working just the way you need for you.
Yeah, so basically, and for a runner, there's 5 criteria: the second mile service, accuracy, cleanliness. And then there's some text that is the criteria for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star rating. And this can be customized for your account separately, and we can upload that, and so it exactly matches the way you want to run your store. And then if you click on the positions tab, James, it'll just show a list of the positions.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Or did we miss a part?
No, I think it did. Mhm.
I'm going to share, this is one more thing I've observed. One thing, so that's about customizing and getting OneClick set up for you. You asked, how do we assign a team member to a trainer? One thing that customers will do is they'll use this notes box at the top of the screen in OneClick, and they'll type something like training in all caps. And then they'll say, Kaylee, train with Celeste on mobile runner. And so they'll type this out and they'll say between 2 and 5. And then what they'll do is they'll say Kaylee, Celeste, mobile runner. And the box will expand to fit both Celeste and Kaylee in that position. And so that way your shift leaders can see, oh, okay, they're already right here. You can read the note, and then they know that that training is going on. And you can do that starting next, for like Tuesday. You can go ahead and do different training notes for next Tuesday and Wednesday and plan it all out.
So I'm going to point out on the screen, in that notes area, there's now a gray section, and that is coming directly out of hot schedules. You can create day notes in hot schedules, and OneClickApp will import those and make them visible there. So when you're doing the setups in hot schedules, that information can be communicated to your shift leaders that way as well.
Thanks, Ed. That was a great question. Who else has a question? All right. Well, while we wait for another question, I do have some other things I want to share. So I'm just I've got some things I'm going to show off, some things we've been working on. And when a question comes in, we'll jump right to it and we'll take the question. Oh, okay, I see a question. What are the blue buttons on the left? That came in about 8 minutes ago. Let's look. Blue buttons on the left. I think you're talking about these ones. No, not these ones. Blue buttons on the left. These blue buttons are the menu. The first blue button brings you to this setup screen where you have all your positions in the center. And on the right, you have the roster, which is the list of all the employees and when they're working. The second blue button on the left switches to the back of house. So if you click this button with the fork and knife, it's going to switch you into a back of house view. And it has a different setup for fries and primary and secondary. And it's going to show your back of house crew instead of the front of house crew on the roster. The third blue button takes you to the training manager and the training dashboard. If you use the training dashboard, if you don't use the training dashboard, or if you don't have permission to access the training dashboard, it shows a simplified view instead. The next blue button takes you to the profile in OneClick of the person signed in. So this is me, James. And this is a feature that is used for when you have an iPad. It's called the guest sign in. And that's the menu. Another question, how do you link hot schedules with OneClick? That is something we do as part of the setup process. So when you fill out our form to try out a free trial, we ask for your hot schedules credentials, a username and a password. And then OneClick is able to log in and get all the data and put it in. And that's a system that's worked really well for our customers. Awesome. Is there another question? How long is the free trial? Great question. The free trial, we give a 2-week free trial from when we get it finished. So if you sign up, it takes us a day or sometimes 3 days to set it all up for you. And then after that, we offer a 2-week free trial to test it out, customize it, go back and forth a bunch of times. Hey, we missed a detail, or you built it the way we wanted it, but we want it a different way now. And we'll go back and forth and we'll get it making just the way we want. And then you can make a decision about if you want to proceed or if you don't want to. Great question. Thank you for asking. I love these questions. All right, keep bringing those questions. While you're talking, I'm just going to talk about another area. This is something we've showed off in the past, but we've been continuing to work on a private beta of a layout editor. For our existing customers, this is software that allows us to customize and change the positions to change the position board and do it really easily. And we've been doing a private beta test where our customers will give you access to the software so that you can adjust to the positions and make them bigger and smaller as often as you want. So I'm just going to demonstrate that. We are moving forward, and if you want to participate, go ahead. It gives you the ability to say, hey, host, we actually don't need a host. We need or we want to call it a sweeper. Type in a new name. Or say, actually, the outside expediters, we don't like them there. We want them over here. You can do that. Or if you say, actually, we don't want chicken and waffles, we want just one box, and we want them to be called hurricane bagging, then you can do that. And we'll make this one too wide. Like that, and delete this one. So you can make these adjustments and tweak it and adjust how OneClick works so it works exactly the way you want it. And that's a really powerful feature that we are already rolling out, and we already have about 15 or 20 customers using these features. And if you want to be invited and participate in these more, send us an email at support@oneclickapp.com, and we'd love to invite you to use this software for yourself so that you can customize your own setups every day, every week, as often as you want to work for you. All right, we're still open for questions. So if you've got a question, jump in. I'm going to show off another thing that we've been working on recently. And so I'm going to jump to a different version of OneClick. This is our beta version. On the beta version, we've been experimenting with a different functionality of the brakes. So for our customers who use the advanced brakes feature, they're saying they really like the ability to see all the shifts that are run together. If you have multiple, like if you assign an employee multiple shifts on the same day, they like to be able to see that. And so we're experimenting with the functionality to where you, when you click on any brake, on any shift, it always brings up this modal where you can either select a brake, or even if they don't need a brake, let's see if we can find somebody who doesn't need a brake. Brianna, even if she doesn't need a brake, you can open this up and see extra information, and have that kind of insight. Hey, she's working from 5 to 8:30, front of house general. Let's see if we can find somebody. This blue double check icon means that they're scheduled for multiple shifts. So let's try this with John. With John, we can see that from 4 to 5:30, he's scheduled leadership, but then from 5:30 to 10, he's scheduled front of house general. And so that's valuable. And in the latest version, we're going to give this to all of our advanced brakes users. But if you want, we actually can enable this for any of our customers. Just ask us and we'll turn on the switch.
There was an additional follow-up question on the hot schedules integration, just asking about which username and login would be the best. Some of our instructions, we recommend setting up a dedicated team member for this integration, like creating a fake hot schedules account. And it can actually work with any user and password for the integration. It's just that if you have a team member who would leave, and if their username is disabled, and that's the one that OneClick App is using, then the synchronization will stop working. So a director or someone who's going to be there for a long time, we could use that. If you do have the ability to ask for, I don't know exactly what you say to either Hot Schedules or Chick-fil-A to have them create a user that can be dedicated to OneClickApp. If somebody has experience with that and could explain, that would be fantastic.
Not a Hot Schedules Pro. Anybody know the answer? I know it boils down to hiring an employee. You go in the system and you hire an employee and you give it a name like OneClick or a name like test or something like that. And you have to give it a social security number. And then as you set up the account, it helps you put in a username and password, and then you can provide that username and password to OneClick, to us, so that we can get the information. Aha, we got another question. What are the red triangles by the positions? The red triangles in the positions are a way of indicating which positions are most important. So these really represent holes in the setup. Notice here on the FC bagger, there's a red triangle. Bagging position is like the most important position, basically. In some stores, it's the window position, but in a lot of them, it's the bagger. And all that means is that this is an important position and it's empty. And so when I drag a shift into that position, it's going to go away. And the red triangle now says, oh, okay, yeah, we're good. We've got a bagger. We're doing fine. Notice on the IPOS, it says, hey, one IPOS doesn't cut it. We need two. And so it's going to show that red triangle until you have two. And then you can still put in more, and you can 6. We're going hard. Oh, 8. We're gonna have 8 people on IPOS day, right? A busy day. But this is a way to kind of visualize the holes in your setup and make sure, hey, am I missing any of the critical positions? That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. I love questions. How we're doing on time? It's about 2:30. Any other questions? I'd love to. Let me just talk about something this is a question I've gotten a bunch of times recently. This whole sort over on the right, the sorts of our break options. This came out recently. We released these features about only a couple weeks ago, and a lot of our customers haven't quite totally understood how these work. And what all it does is, if you tap on this header, it will cycle through different options. And so the default one is auto, and that's really smart. But you can cycle through the special view with a brake manager, only available to people with their advanced brakes module. Highest training sort for people with the training module, and then also other options for alphabetical and start time and stop time. It's probably meaningful to point out that OneClick also provides these minor indicators. Lowercase m, think small, think 14 or 15 years old. Uppercase m, think bigger, think 16 or 17 years old. Still minors, but 16 or 17 years old. If you're struggling to keep track of how old are people, are they old enough? Do they have to be off by 7? Are they allowed to stay till 9? Are they old enough to use a ladder? Are they old enough to use the trash compactor in the back? OneClick is providing that kind of information here. Looks like we had a question. Oh, okay, we don't need to readdress that. Got it. I see a new question. New question, is there a display for the team to see? Answer, yes, very much yes. This OneClick app, as soon as you log in, as soon as the trial account is activated, all of the employees in your store have access to log in. They can use the email address that's stored in Hot Schedules. In OneClick, you can find this out by opening up the employee list and choosing any of these names. So we'll just look at, say, the Queen. And now this is a demo store, and so it's all fake. It's not legit, right? But in OneClick app, it will has their name and their director, and this is the email address. This email address comes from Hot Schedules. So if Jessica wanted to log into OneClick, all she would need to do is use this email address, and then she'll be able to log in. And there are permissions associated with that. So when a team member logs in, let's demonstrate this. Say Ezra. Ezra is a team member. When Ezra signs in, she will get this view that looks like this. Bam. So what I'm doing right now is I'm simulating what it looks like when Ezra logs in. You'll notice this button is grayed out. She's not allowed to add new setups. You'll notice that the notes box is disabled. She's not allowed to type or edit notes. The shifts she can see and she can look at them, but she doesn't have access to drag them. When she clicks, she's not going to be able to mess up any of the breaks. She's not going to be able to move herself into a new position where she actually wanted to work today, right? She's not going to have that ability. And also, when she goes to the team member list from the menu, you'll notice that she doesn't see any of that private training information, any of the notes that trainers have left, any of the feedback that directors have left on an employee's profile. She's not gonna be able to see that. And she'll see this view instead with just lists, right? And so when she looks at her profile, she sees just a very little amount. And so, yeah, so they can log in. And so when any of your team members, they want to look at it at home, they want to pull it up on their phone, they can visit OneClick app on their web browser on their phone, and they can look and see, hey, this is where I'm assigned at 2 o'clock. This is where I'm assigned at 5 o'clock. And let me show off another thing. Ezra is working on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. When she goes to Wednesday at 5 o'clock, which was yesterday, Ezra's card will actually show up in yellow. And so she'll see herself like, oh, there I am. It's going to stand out right here. I am. I'm Ezra. Now the shift leader hasn't done the setup, so she's not in a position, but it's also a demo account. Great question. I love these questions. All right, I'm gonna talk about another cool feature. This is about loving setups. You'll notice that OneClick, I'm gonna get out of Ezra. So I'm gonna go back into my full view with all the permissions. So I've got permission to do whatever I want. You'll notice that OneClick has this system of times. So there's an 11 o'clock time, a 2 o'clock time, and a 5 o'clock time. Well, that's really valuable. Let's sort these by start times. We're just looking at when people start. You'll notice that some people don't start until 5:30. But OneClick is really smart, and it's going to show the people who start at 5:30 at this 5 o'clock time. So you know that they're coming. You know they're not going to be there right at 5 o'clock, but they're going to be there at 5:30. And so that's why that's why this text is red. It's indicating, hey, they don't start at 5, but they start later than that. And so just be aware of that and have that information. And I think that makes a big difference. The system is actually really advanced. And so when you start getting into how does it work during the day, when you've got people coming in and going at 2, 3, 4, and 5, if you want to make setups for every hour of the day, OneClick is very much capable of doing that. We can customize it and get it just the way you need. But the point is that it's going to look at, like on this case, 4, and it's going to filter out the people you need right there and let you see the rest of it later. Anyway, that was probably not a great explanation, but that's something cool.
Okay. I think we're running up on the end of our time. So appreciate everyone being here and for all the questions that came through. We're going to say we're recording the webinar. We'll send a follow-up email. You can share it with your team or with anybody else that you see might want to learn more about this. Or if you have any questions, you can email support@oneclickapp.com. And that's with any requests for making changes to your layout. If you have an active account and you need any changes, or if you just have any questions. Also sales@oneclickapp.com can help you get set up with a trial if you're wanting to try it out. So we appreciate everyone attending, and we're also going to be sharing a referral program where there can be rewards and things. If you're acquainted with any other stores that may want to use that or whatnot, you can ask us about that, but we'd love to help spread the word. We appreciate all that's going on and the growth that's happening. And we appreciate your time again and have a wonderful day.